welcome to the show. You know where you are, the 9 at 9 with me, Tigo. And it's that time. We have our branding expert in place. Darlene Hawley is here. You know, she teaches us everything about branding and getting the word out there and what you have to do. But she also knows that storytelling is humongous. If you can't tell your story, then how does anybody else hear it? So she's here. We're going to talk about it. Sit right there. We'll be right back.
Expert Talk is sponsored by Pod Nation TV, the podcast to broadcast network.
Yep, you heard me right. I love a good story. Everybody does. You watch movies, you watch TV, you read a book. Somewhere you get a story. But you also need to be able to tell your story so you can get to your right fit client. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because my buddy is here. Darlene, are you out there?
I am here, Tigo. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. What's happening with you? How are you doing? It's February. Valentine's Day just happened. Love is in the air.
Love is in the air. It absolutely is. I'm doing amazing. How are you doing?
I'm amazing. You know, Vegas weather is always pretty good. When we get towards the end of February, we get out of our cold. And I know my people back home in Chicago are going, really? You call 40 or 50 degrees cold? You know, they would kill for 40 to 50 degrees in February. But hey, you know what? Y'all don't want our 118 degrees in July. So that's the way it goes. Let's talk about storytelling. How important is it? Why do people need it? And do all business owners need it?
Absolutely. So I am extremely passionate about the power of story and sharing story to build your personal brand. And I remember when I first started sharing more stories in my business, it was almost like I had this light bulb moment where I saw transformation for other people when I was networking because they were connecting to me because they were listening to me share stories. And they understood what I did and how I supported my clients during that storytelling. And that's when I knew I was onto something and knew I had to share more of myself through stories. And so that's the work I do now with my coaches, experts, leaders, and entrepreneurs is I help them attract their dream clients and stand out online through the power of speaking up and sharing their story. And so it's so powerful. I'm always telling my clients, you have to share more story in the content that you're creating. Whether it's one line of story or if it's a two-minute story that you're sharing, whether it's you're on a virtual stage or writing a blog post or sharing something on YouTube. But when you connect with story, people lean in a little bit more. They pay closer attention because that's kind of our love language, right? Is storytelling. Yeah. That's how we connect, and that's how we know if the people we're talking to are actually our people.
So how do you know how to format your story? I mean, you can go back, you know, I have some people I've met over the years and I've asked them, you know, okay, so what's your story? And they have literally gone back to the crib and it's like, okay, I don't need to know when you first took your first step. That's not it. So can we move this a little bit further down the road? How do you know how to format your story? What should be included in your story? And, you know, is it one story that you can do the full version that's 20 minutes on a stage and bring it all the way down to 90 seconds if you got a 90-second little drop that you can do? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of different types of stories that we share, especially as entrepreneurs, right? We're out there building our personal brands. We're sharing our story and our message. The first story that I encourage my clients to write is their origin story. How did they come to the place that they are today with running their businesses? You want to identify what are the main pieces in my life that have led me on this journey to start my business. So that would be the first story that I would encourage you to write. And that story you can tell on stages. You can have it on your About Me page on your website. I call it my story page. If you go to my website and click on my story, you can see my story of, the struggle that I went through as a single mom working in retail management, 60 plus hours. I was overwhelmed and exhausted, and I had all this mom guilt. I share some of those pieces of myself for what even led me to starting my own business, so that people can start to connect really quickly and build that know, like, and trust factor that comes with it. And then there's also story in, a social media post. You might be sharing 5 tips how to build a personal brand. And before I would share that post, I would tell a story, and then I would share my tips, because that's what's going to pull people in and make them pay more attention. And there's a stat that people are 22 times more likely to pay attention and remember you and listen when you share story in your messaging.
Wow.
So why would you not share a little bit of story? 22 times more likely to remember you. That's huge, especially when there's a lot of noise in the online space.
And there is a lot of noise. I mean, people have less attention span than a goldfish right now.
Yeah.
So my question is, what about ghostwriters? What about people that are watching or listening right now going, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I can't write. I've never been a writer. I don't know how to convey my story. I don't even know what you're talking about. What about a ghostwriter? Can they hire somebody to do that for them?
That's a great question, Tigo. And you can absolutely hire ghostwriters, but there's a but there, because a ghostwriter doesn't speak the way that you do. They don't share the voice the way that you do. So you can have somebody else help support you in this process. But if you do, you're not really getting out of the equation. Like, you kind of have to be highly involved. You're sharing your story to somebody else, and they're pulling the pieces out of what you're going to actually share. But one of the ways that I work with my clients, I was working with a client recently who came to me, and she was sharing something similar. She's like, I don't know if I can share my story. I don't know what pieces are actually relevant or how to even do this. Can I hire somebody else too? And we ended up working together to write her story for her. And I gave her the templates, the tools, the support she needed to get her to identify which pieces actually mattered. And we crafted a beautiful story that's now up on our website, and she's been starting to share it on podcast interviews, and she has a speaking engagement coming up, and she's going to share some of that story woven into what she's doing. And
no, that's amazing.
I actually think it's more important to write your own story versus having a ghostwriter or somebody else come in and do it, because only you can share it in the way that you're going to. And you might get somebody like myself or a ghostwriter to help tweak it and really pull out the right pieces and tweak it to say it in a way that really resonates with your ideal client, because you want to keep in mind your ideal client throughout this whole process. You're not just telling a story to tell a story as a business owner. You're telling a story to share the transformation, to pull people in, to connect, to get people to feel like they already have gotten a chance to know you. And when they jump on a call with you to see if working together is going to be the right thing, they feel like they're having coffee with a friend, because they already know a little bit about you and they feel that connection.
Well, I know that, our producer is going to throw up the 2-minute warning here pretty soon, but I want to make sure I get in. Okay, they've written their story. They've done blogs on it. They're putting it up on their social media. It's on their website. But what about converting that story into what we're doing right now? Being on a podcast interview, doing a video about it, standing on a stage. How do you do that? Because a lot of people will write. They can write it out. They're like, I'm not the one that's going to go out there and tell anybody because I'm terrified to be in front of the camera or be on a stage. How do you do that? How do you get over that hump?
Yeah, one of the best ways that I found for myself is not to over-script it. We want to have an idea of what we want to talk about, and then we want to get up and we want to talk it out. We want to actually speak the words. There's not, like, if you write something, how you write versus how you talk is typically different. Like, you might have a very similar tone in your writing, and you want to have that tone in your writing for how you would speak out loud, but you don't know what that, like, it can sound, I know for myself, if I sit down and write something, it can sound very corporate-y or like professional in my writing, but that's not how I talk. So I always encourage my clients to get up, walk around a little bit, talk out loud, share the story, and see which pieces actually matter, and work it backwards. One of the things that I talk a lot about is making sure that you are saying it in a way that really is going to connect with your audience. Say it out loud, see work the process backwards. What's the aha moment you want your client to have? And then ask yourself, what story actually should I be telling to prompt this aha with my client? And what questions can I ask to really facilitate that conversation and get them to go through that transformation with me.
I love it. I love it. Okay. We're running out of time. Tell them how to find you. Tell them how to find you.
Yep. You can find me at darlenehawley.com and come say hello. I also love to hang out on LinkedIn. Say hello. Let me know that you found me from Tigo Direct or from Tigo Direct. From Tigo. I don't know why I added Direct as your new last name, but I did. But come find me. Come say hi. Let me know what story are you afraid to share? And let's identify what some of those main pieces are so we can start to share it.
Awesome. And if you didn't catch that website, you guys know, go to Tigo Direct, find Darlene, click on it. Her information's out there. Go connect and share your story. Thank you so much for being on. I can't wait to see what we're going to talk about next month.
Thanks, Tigo.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. You know I want you to come back next time, which is probably tomorrow. And as always, I'm Tigo. I'll talk to you next time.